My name is Margaret Harris. I'm 56 from Bristol, England, and yesterday, my daughter shattered me with one cruel email. Don't come to my wedding. Watch online. Don't make it harder. I raised her alone after her father abandoned us. I stitched clothes by hand, worked night shifts, and poured my life into her dreams. Now I was being thrown away like a stranger. The humiliation cut deeper than any knife. But what she didn't know was that I had secrets of my own, and on her wedding day, I would use them. She wanted me silent. Instead, she gave me the stay. Backhand index pointing right, stay tuned. Because this isn't just a wedding story, it's a mother's revenge unveiled. I'm Margaret Harris, 56 years old, a retired seamstress who spent decades stitching gowns for other brides while dreaming of the day I'd watch my daughter walk down the aisle. Her name is Clara. She's 27 now, clever, ambitious, a corporate lawyer living in London. For years, she was my pride, my reason to wake up each morning. I scraped together pennies to send her to law school, skipped meals so she could have ballet lessons, and worked every overtime shift offered just to keep the heat on in winter. But last week, she sent me that email. Short, sharp, final. Mom, I think it's best if you don't attend the wedding. You can watch through live stream. Please don't come, it'll make things easier. No explanation, no apology, nothing. I read it 3 times, thinking it must be a mistake. I called her, no answer. I sent messages. She left me on read. The silence roared in my ears. I finally reached out to her fiancé's family. That's when the truth bled through. They believed I was too embarrassing for their polished society wedding. She deserves better than her mother's shadow, someone whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. I felt my stomach twist, bile rising. After everything, I wasn't good enough. For 3 nights, I couldn't sleep. I replayed memories of Clara as a child. The scraped knees I kissed better, the nights I sat beside her bed when she was sick, the sacrifices I never once regretted. And now, discarded. But on the 4th night, as I sat in silence with only the hum of the fridge for company, a thought formed in the pit of my chest. Not rage, not despair, something colder, sharper. If they thought they could erase me, they were wrong. I know things Clara has hidden from her perfect in-laws, things she thought buried, things that would stain her picture-perfect wedding dress forever. She had shut me out, but I was no longer begging for a seat. Instead, I was preparing for an entrance. The morning of Clara's wedding was bright and cruel. Sunshine spilled over Bristol like it was blessing the city, but inside me, a storm was brewing. I sat at my small kitchen table, staring at the invitation that had once arrived proudly in the post. I had kept it safe, pressed in a drawer like it was gold. Now it was nothing more than a mockery. I had 2 choices. Stay home, watch a live stream and cry silently, or show up and reclaim my dignity. I knew which one I'd choose. The first step of my plan was simple: gather the evidence. Clara had forgotten that, before she turned her back on me, she once trusted me with her secrets. I still had copies of those old letters she wrote during law school, letters where she admitted cheating on her exams with the help of her tutor, letters where she confessed her fiancé wasn't her first choice, but the richest option. I also had the emails she sent me, crying about the night she accidentally ruined a friend's engagement out of jealousy. They were raw, foolish confessions of a younger woman, but damning enough if revealed at the wrong moment. And what moment could be worse, or better, than her wedding day? I packed those letters into my handbag, slipping them between tissues and a lipstick tube. My hands trembled as I zipped it shut, not from fear, but from anticipation. Still, I wasn't heartless. Deep inside, a part of me begged Clara to reach out before it came to this. I checked my phone every hour, waiting for a call, an apology, a whisper of regret, but nothing came. By 11 a.m., I stood before the mirror in my best navy dress. Not a new gown, just the one I had worn to her law school graduation. The same graduation I nearly collapsed from exhaustion to fund. The dress fit tighter now, but I held my head high. As I fastened my pearl earrings, I whispered to my reflection, "You will not be erased, not today." When I stepped out of my flat and hailed a cab, the driver asked, Wedding today, love. I smiled thinly. Yes, a wedding they'll never forget. The cab stopped outside the grand stone church in Clifton, its steps draped in white roses and satin ribbons. Guests in pastel suits and feathered hats laughed as they filed inside. From a distance, it looked like the perfect fairy tale. But I knew the truth. Perfection was Clara's favorite disguise. I stood across the street for a moment, clutching my handbag, the weight of those letters like a hidden weapon. My heart raced, but it wasn't fear. It was justice pounding in my chest. "Are you with the bride's side or the groom?" a smiling usher asked as I approached. "The bride's," I said, forcing warmth into my voice. He didn't question it, just pointed me toward the pews. Clara hadn't struck my name from the guest list. Perhaps she assumed I'd obey her cruel email and vanish. She had underestimated me, as always. Inside, the church was breathtaking. Candles flickered against stained glass windows, casting colors across the polished wooden floor. The air was thick with perfume and anticipation. Families whispered in excited tones, while a string quartet played softly near the altar. I slipped into a pew near the back, close enough to see everything, far enough to remain unnoticed. My hands stayed on my bag, steady and deliberate. Then I saw her. Clara glided down the aisle on her father-in-law's arm, her ivory gown flowing like a river. Gasps of admiration filled the church. She looked radiant, yes, but her eyes avoided the crowd, scanning only for the people she truly cared about impressing. And that person was not me. She hadn't spotted me yet. Good. As she reached the altar, her fiancé, Henry, tall, polished, every bit the wealthy lawyer she had chosen for his fortune, smiled down at her like she was pure light. If only he knew the darkness beneath her carefully painted smile. The priest began speaking, his voice echoing in the vaulted ceiling. "We are gathered here today." My grip on my bag tightened. I could almost hear Clara's younger voice in those letters, mocking, confessing, exposing herself in ways she never thought would come back. I leaned forward, eyes locked on her. "You don't get to erase me, Clara," I whispered under my breath. The vows were about to begin, and so was my revenge. The church hushed as the priest invited Henry to begin his vows. His voice rang with certainty. "Clara, from the moment I met you, I knew my life had changed. You are my confidant, my strength, my home." The guests sighed and dabbed their eyes. To them, it was love. To me, it was a performance, one Clara had rehearsed all her life. My pulse quickened, the letters inside my handbag burning like fire against my side. When it was Clara's turn, she lowered her gaze, her voice trembling in practiced vulnerability. "Henry, you are my safe place, my future. You are the man I prayed for, the man who—" I nearly laughed. Clara had once written to me, "Henry isn't my first choice, but he's wealthy and I need security." Now she stood here, spinning lies with every word. I could have stood then, interrupted her, exposed her hypocrisy. But no, revenge wasn't about impulse. Revenge was about timing. The priest asked, "If anyone knows of a reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." Gasps fluttered through the pews as I rose. My heels clicked against the marble floor, echoing louder than the strings had played. All eyes turned toward me. Clara froze at the altar, her lips parting, her face blanching. Henry looked confused. "Yes," I said clearly, my voice cutting through the silence like glass. "I know a reason." A ripple of whispers exploded across the church. Clara tried to recover. "Mother, please don't." "Don't," I snapped. "Don't reveal that you confessed in your own handwriting, that you cheated your way through law school. Don't show the man you claim to love how you called him the richest option instead of your heart's choice." Gasps turned into stunned silence. Henry's jaw tightened, his hand dropping from hers. I opened my bag slowly, deliberately, pulling out a folded letter. My voice shook, but not with fear, with justice. "This is your bride," I told him, holding up the page. "The woman you think you know." The church was no longer a sanctuary. It was a courtroom, and Clara was about to be sentenced. "Stop it," Clara's voice cracked, echoing through the vaulted ceiling. She reached for the letter in my hand, her diamond ring glittering under the stained glass light. "Mother, you don't understand. Those were old mistakes. I was young." "Old mistakes," I hissed, holding the page higher. "This letter was written just 3 years ago, Clara. You weren't a child. You were a calculating adult." The congregation murmured like a restless tide. Some guests craned their necks, others covered their mouths in disbelief. Henry's face darkened. He extended his hand. "Let me see it." "No, Henry, please." Clara grabbed his arm, but he shook her off with a force that made her stumble. He took the letter from me and scanned the lines. His jaw clenched tighter with every word. The color drained from his face. He turned to her, his voice low but deadly. "You used me." "No, Henry, I love you." "Love," his laugh was hollow. "You wrote that I was the richest option, that you'd never be poor again if you married me." He dropped the letter as though it burned his hands. "Tell me, Clara, was any of this real?" Her eyes darted wildly, searching for sympathy in the crowd, but the guests stared at her with judgment written across their faces. Even her bridesmaids stood frozen, bouquets trembling in their hands. She stammered, but her words died in the silence. I stepped forward, steady, my voice cold as marble. "The truth always finds its way to the surface, Clara. You tried to erase me from your life, but you forgot I know who you really are." Her face twisted, fury blazing behind her tears. "You wanted to humiliate me." "No," I replied softly. "You did that to yourself. I simply refused to hide it." Henry's voice broke through, final and sharp. "This wedding is over." Gasps ripped through the church. Clara's knees buckled, and for the first time in years, she looked small, no longer the commanding woman who cut her own mother out with an email. She turned to me, eyes burning with betrayal. "You've ruined everything." I met her gaze, unflinching. "No, Clara, you ruined yourself. I just gave the world a front row seat." The silence that followed was heavier than any hymn. And in that silence, Clara's empire crumbled. The church emptied in chaos. Guests hurried out, whispering, clutching their coats like they were escaping a crime scene. The flowers, the music, the grandeur, all of it seemed absurd now, the ruins of a fairy tale turned nightmare. I stood still in the aisle, my handbag hanging at my side. For once, I wasn't invisible. People glanced at me with wide eyes, some in pity, some in awe, but I didn't care. My purpose had been fulfilled. Henry tore the boutonniere from his lapel and threw it on the floor. His voice cut through the stunned air. "Clara, don't follow me." Then he turned and walked out, the slam of the heavy doors sealing her fate. Clara collapsed onto the front pew, her pristine gown spilling like a fallen crown. Her bridesmaids hesitated, torn between loyalty and shame, but none dared to comfort her. Not one hand reached out. Slowly, she lifted her head, her eyes finding me. Those eyes, once sharp with superiority, were red, desperate, broken. "Why?" she whispered hoarsely. "Why did you have to destroy me like this?" I approached, every step deliberate. I leaned close enough so only she could hear. "Because you destroyed me first. When you told me I wasn't worthy to sit at your wedding, you forgot who made you strong enough to have one." Her lip trembled, but no words came. For the first time, Clara had no script, no mask, no defense. I straightened, smoothed my dress, and walked down the aisle toward the doors. Each click of my heels was a drumbeat of finality. At the entrance, I paused. The sunlight streamed in, warm on my face. I hadn't expected it, but it felt like freedom. Like the chains she had wrapped around me had finally fallen away. Behind me, Clara's sobs echoed in the hollow church, but I didn't turn back. That chapter was closed. As I stepped onto the street, people stared, murmured, even snapped photos. Let them. The truth had been spoken. For years, I had been erased. Today, I wrote myself back into the story. And this time, my name would never be forgotten.